Hey everybody, welcome to the next module, Module 5 for AP Psych. Today we're really going to be talking about some of the latest updates from College Board on the AP exam and how we can properly prepare to make useful notes and notes that we can use that will be helpful for us during the exam, and how we can avoid all assumptions of academic integrity violations. It's going to be really important and different this year, so I want to make sure everyone's feeling very prepared. So the exam is coming, right? A month from right now when I'm recording this. So on May 19th, right, you will be taking your AP Psych exam. It's looking very different this year from what we thought it was going to look like. And that means that there's a lot of things we need to do differently to prepare. Every single person in this class has an incredible opportunity to do so well on this exam. We just have to make sure we're putting in the right work to be ready. So it's an open note AP exam. I don't know about you all, but this is wild to me. I think this is just so crazy that they're allowing notes. It's really exciting. It's also nerve-wracking. I don't know about you, but for me, this feels just kind of like uncharted territory. And so I'm a little nervous personally about how it's going to go and how it's going to play out. But I do know that the biggest thing we need to do is to prepare adequately. We need to have notes that are actually going to help us and not hurt us during the exam, and we need to ensure that we know enough to do our very best. I want to be super clear that just because it's open note does not mean the exam's going to be easier. I think you can create notes and prepare in a way that your notes are really helpful to you and that they could take you from, a lower score to a higher score. They could really boost you. But I do not want anyone to think that you can rely on your notes to pass instead of knowing the information for the exam. You really do have to know your stuff here. Okay, so one thing I want to be super clear on is that what your notes will help you on and will not help you on. Your notes are going to really be able to support you on knowing and remembering accurately the definitions of terms that are on the exam. As you all know, simply writing the definition for the term or even just having the definition correct is never, ever what's going to score a point on the AP exam. It never was before. That's not how you've been practicing, and that hasn't changed now, okay? So it's important to know the definition so that you can apply it correctly, all right? But just writing the definition, just giving something that's in your notes or that you could find on the internet is still not going to score you the point, okay? You have to know what these terms mean. You have to be able to use them and apply them in different situations, all right? So what we're going to do is use our notes to ensure that our definitions are straight and that they're right and that they're accurate. And then we're going to use our brains and all of the practice that we've done for that application piece, okay? All right, so something we really need to think about here is timing. So you have 25 minutes for question 1. This will be that concept application question, and you'll have 8 tasks or 8 points or 8 words that you are applying to that term. And then you will have 15 minutes for question 2, which is your research methods question, where you will have 6 tasks, so 6 things to apply to that question. I would put big money that one of those tasks is going to be variables, either identifying an independent, dependent, or a confounding variable, and that another of those 6 points is going to be drawing conclusions in some way based on the data that they give you. So really make sure you're good on those things. But if we look at the research methods questions they've given us to practice, we almost always have variables and drawing conclusions as 2 of the 6 points. All right, so I had a meeting with College Board last week, and something I found really interesting that they said is that they're kind of intentionally giving you too much to do so that you don't have time to cheat. They don't actually think 25 minutes is enough time to do those 8 points well for most people. So I want to be super clear. You can earn a 5 without answering all of the points. All right. You up your chances the more that you answer, right? But you just need to be doing your best, right? You need to be giving your full, complete answers and doing your very best and putting your very best effort into each of these tasks. And you're not going to have a lot of time to look up very much in your notes. So this is what I'm recommending, and this is what I want you to keep top of mind as you're doing your practice throughout the next month. I would recommend that you're only looking up 2 terms in your notes per question. That for the rest of the terms, you know them well enough to just answer without having to look it up. And if you have time, you will have time to go back in your notes and double check yourself, all right? But I think you should be ready to not look up more than 2 terms per question. Relying on our notes any more than that is going to take a lot of time that we just don't have. All right, so some things that we need to think through. All right, and these are questions you're going to have to answer for yourself. I have recommendations, but you are a senior in high school. You know what's best for you, all right? You need to do that and think critically about what is best and what's going to help you the most. So think about, should you write or type your notes? How should those notes be organized, and how will you practice with them? That's equally as important as knowing our terms at this point is how are we practicing to make sure we know how to use our notes, that we're in a good routine with that practice. So I have one blanket recommendation for how to do notes. If you are someone who already feels very confident in the way that your notes are organized, excellent. Keep going forward with it. Don't try something new, or don't fix something that's not broken, right? If you're not confident in your note taking right now and how you've been using your notes, for example, if you've been Googling things a lot, let's not do that. Let's really not rely on that. Or if you feel like you've struggled to find specific things in your notes, that your notes aren't super organized, maybe pay attention to this recommendation. So this is some example notes that I took, just for myself to think through what would be the most useful way to think of notes as I'm thinking about the AP exam. So things I want you to notice. I organize these notes alphabetically to save time. If I see a term on the AP exam that I genuinely don't know the definition of, chances are I don't totally remember what unit it's from either, right? And so having our notes organized alphabetically is going to make it easier to find that term if we really don't know it. Writing big enough so it's easy to read and small enough so that you can fit as much as possible on a page, all right? If you have a whole book of notes, that's going to be less helpful than if you have a few pieces of paper that feel really manageable, right? So we want to make sure that balance is there. It's also not helpful if you can't read your own notes, right? So you need to make sure that your notes are usable for you. Last thing is, so I organize my notes into 3 columns. First, I have the term, and then the definition, so the textbook definition, whatever I found in my book or my Quizlet for this term. And then I also have this last column for keywords, synonyms, notes, or examples, things that I could really use in an FRQ if I needed to. So if we look at even just absolute threshold as an example, I have that definition. That's kind of a wordy definition. And if that's not a term that I remember, that definition might not help me as much. But I do see that I could use words like notice, detect, sense. Those are synonyms, right, that I could use in my answer to help me communicate that I know what this term means. I would also really stress that you are doing your best to put definitions in your own words. So when we're looking at this second column, you're putting forth the effort to not just copy down what you've seen in your textbook or in notes elsewhere, right? But that you're putting these in your own words. And we'll come back to this when we talk about academic integrity. You're going to spend a lot of time today building your note strategy in your module. Do not hesitate to reach out and ask questions. If you feel like you have a friend in the class that has a good strategy, ask them about their strategy. Don't ask them for their notes. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. But if you want to talk through strategy with myself or with a classmate, highly recommend that. Okay, we're all here to help each other. All right, so something we really need to think about is academic integrity. And I just don't know how else to make it more clear. Like, please don't cheat. Please, please, please. It is not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Like, we need to like think realistically about who College Board is, right? They're a pretty like powerful institution and they're pretty knowledgeable. Like, let's not think that we can fool them. Okay, that's not a smart strategy to go in with. And I want to be very honest that the biggest consequence of cheating and getting caught is that College Board will report that violation to any colleges you've applied to. All right, and any colleges you may apply to in the future. So, it not even just colleges that you've been accepted to, not even colleges that you've committed to. They're telling everyone that you tried to cheat on an AP exam. Okay? So just don't do it. Don't, if it feels sketchy, just don't do it. All right, so what is College Board going to be looking for? How can we prepare ourselves to be ready for this? So mostly what they're looking for is collaboration with others and any work that isn't yours. So they're going to be really looking out for any way that you might be collaborating with other students or me or any other human that's not yourself and your notes during the exam. I want you to be incredibly careful if you have other windows open. Just so you know, they're not going to make you use a lockdown browser. So if you decide to take your notes electronically, you could do that. Don't copy and paste anything. Just don't, right? Even if it's a definition that you're like, okay, I'm going to type this word for word, don't click copy and paste. That's a huge red flag. I really recommend doing your notes on paper to avoid any temptations or any accidents that can happen, right? Listen, I am like not always the most tech savvy. I get that accidents happen. Let's prevent them, okay? If you are using electronic notes, do not share them with me. Do not share them with any other student. Like, if you ever want me to look over anything or another student to look over something, like, I recommend like taking a screenshot of it and sending it. Do not share that document. And I want you to be really wary, once again, of simply copy and pasting definitions. Really work to put things in your own words. We have time. We have time to do that, okay? Just like don't Google things. Don't have Google open during the exam. Also, just keeping in mind that Google's not going to help, all right? It's never going to help because that's not what earns you your point anyway. You do really still have to know this stuff. You have to know your stuff still. All right, one thing that I want you to be aware of so it doesn't take you by surprise is that you will be giving a writing sample to College Board before you start your exam. And the reason they're doing that is to compare your answers on the exam to that writing sample to look for any inconsistencies in your writing style. All right, if they see something that looks fishy, they like might call you out on it because it doesn't match your original writing sample that you gave. There's going to be things that they'll do to monitor during the test and after the test to look for cheating. And if it's suspected that you're cheating during the test, they're just going to shut you down right there. Okay? Something they'll be doing after the test is that they're going to be giving me your responses, not scored, but just your raw responses early, just like a week or two after you take the exam. I will be asked if anything looks suspicious or out of line with your typical writing. I've been reading your writing all year. I can mostly tell all of you based on your writing. Like, don't put me in a bad position there either. And don't put yourself in a bad position. So what we're going to be working on next is notes creation. So no one's going to cheat. I just know in my heart it's not going to happen. But we are going to make really strong notes that can help us so that we're feeling confident and that we are being supported the best that we need to be during the exam. We're going to be, if you feel like you're really confident in your note system already, we're going to be putting it to the test in today's mastery check and in future mastery checks so that you can be thinking of like any changes that you might want to make to your organization. If you're starting from scratch, if you just like haven't really taken many notes this year or you've been really relying on class packets, like we're not going to be able to go back and look at all of our class packets, right? also fine. We have so much time and we have a lot of space to create based on what you really need currently. Okay. So go ahead, stop this video, follow the instructions in your module to start making your notes. And as always, reach out if you need anything. Bye, y'all.